Welcome in everyone, James here. Now you might have heard the term hero class being thrown around and you're trying to work out which one is best for you, or maybe even what the point of committing yourself to a single hero class is. In this series of videos I'm going to be putting all 5 hero classes through their paces, explain what every hero class plays like as you start nearing that end game stage, and show you what exactly it is you're aiming for. Before we begin, I'm going to explain a lot of stuff, so this intro will be a bit of a guide unto itself, and just as a heads up, I'm going to paste it into all of the videos in this series. Now, first things first, the reason we recommend you focus on just the one hero class is because you can get charms to boost all 5 of the hero classes. And the best way to utilize those charms is to stack as many of one single type as possible into your armor. Mixing different types of hero charms into one set of armor just gives you bad results across the board, and it's not even worth doing. Secondly, by focusing on one single hero class as early as possible, you can save yourself a ton of time and effort because you're not going to run out of tomes from leveling up all the random heroes that you unlock, and you can stick to just the ones that are in your selected hero class and still be able to cover pretty much everything the game has to offer. Now, don't get me wrong, all of the 5 hero classes are viable, but each have different strengths and weaknesses across different areas of the game. I'll be using the same build across all 5 classes because the fundamentals don't change much. This is the build, it's 375% hero power. Obviously I will change which charms are in there depending on which class I'm talking about. On the body piece there, I have 4 defense charms and 1 weakened chance. That one is essential in my opinion. And then on the helmet, I've got 4 more defense charms. This one is a unique helmet because my mythic one is set up for the monster caves and it's a little bit jank at the minute. The gauntlets you use will change depending on what class you're using, and to some extent the weapons do change as well, they can change. But normally I'd recommend having 100% protect on your main rift weapon regardless. Now, when selecting a hero class, the most important thing you need to do is identify the weaken hero for that class, because when you're starting out in this game, weaken and protect is the most important tactic you need to learn. So here's how it works, and I apologize if you already know this, but what you do is you get a hero with weaken on rage, and then when you rage that hero, you will hopefully apply weaken to all of the enemies. Weaken will lower their damage by 35%. Then if you apply protect to yourself, either with a weapon that has 100% chance to proc protect, or a hero with protect on their base power, protect will lower all damage to you by another 35%. So when these two statuses are in effect, that's 70% damage negation. And then you can take it even further. If you attune your mythic armor, you get 10% damage negation per attunement from whatever enemy type it is attuned to. So the trick is you attune 3 pieces to the same type. I'm going to use beast for this example. You use weaken and protect, and now you have 100% damage negation. So when they hit you, just nothing will happen. You won't take any damage. Now you've got 5 pieces of mythic armor and you can attune all 5 of them. So you can attune 3 to one type and 2 to another type and achieve 100% from one enemy type and 90% from a second, which is why this works so well, because most fights will only have 2 enemy types at a time. You can see me using this strategy to full effect in the Achilles Cave videos, which is pretty much the hardest fight in the game right now. But more to this point, one of the most common misconceptions in this game is that you need to keep your armor leveled up all the time. You don't. You just simply don't have to. What you need to do is keep your weaken hero leveled up all the time, because if their level is too low, the weaken just won't work. So always try to keep them the same level as you. You're not going to need your armor leveled up if you're not taking any damage to begin with. And all this is usually realized way too late in the game, which is a problem because this type of game, if you set off on the wrong path, it can be faster in the moment, but it will cost you months of progression further down the line, and it's full of all these little pitfalls that the game just sets you up for, so that you can feel overpowered 1 minute and then you hit a wall and then you need to start again. Do you like to use stun or freeze in the rift? guess what? It doesn't work in Expert Rift. As soon as the threat gets to about 20 to 40 points above your rift power, it just stops working. And this is just one of the little pitfalls that the game sets you up for. There is so many. Now the Expert Rift starts at 280 threat. So when you get started in there, you're going to be in a threat deficit most of the time, and getting more rift power is a lot easier said than done, because that's another pitfall. You need to save all of the currency for the monster cave shops to buy the upgrade stones, to upgrade all the gear to get more rift power, and it's such a huge grind. So having said that, the PvE ratings I give for each class will all be based on the Expert Rift, because not only is it hard, it's the most important area of the game that you should be playing each week to keep your progression going. You get all the upgrade materials to go from level 50 to 60 for your armor and your weapons, and you get pretty much everything else you can think of in there: charms, mythic essence, gear, gauntlet cores. You get so many gauntlet cores. One thing to note in the Expert Rift is that the rift power and the threat, the numbers, they don't actually matter. It's the difference between the numbers that matters. And at about 170 threat deficit, so that's when the threat is above your rift power, the enemies are going to cap out and they're not going to get any stronger. So if you can reliably win at 170 threat deficit, you can beat anything. But I will say that's not going to happen if you're using Vordry and Brutus. It's just not. And the Rift is the only area in the game where you actually need your mythic armor. When you start reaching end game, you can put together alternate sets of unique armor like this. These are called side builds, and you can use them for every aspect of the game except the Rift, because they can't gain any Rift power. So choosing a starting class that might make the Rift more difficult is potentially shooting yourself in the foot. So I'm going to be demonstrating how to play Expert Rift in quite a heavy deficit for each class, and I'm going to show you how to play it best. Now for the guild boss high scores, you need heroes with strong distributed rage powers. The rule of rage powers is if it has any added special effects, the damage will be lower. So the best ones for high scores are the ones that have just pure damage and don't really do anything. They don't have expose, or they don't have poison or whatever. If it just doesn't do anything and it's just pure damage like critter or bacon, then that's as high as the numbers are gonna go. The only way that the numbers get higher than that is on heroes like Balendu, where it's just pure damage. But then it also says strong versus burn. It gets a buff to it as well if the enemy has burn. And this is the only place in the game where the strong versus types of the heroes actually matter. Because for guild bosses, you really do need to min-max as much as possible to get those high scores. In all the other areas of the game, you should really be choosing your heroes based on what they do, rather than their strong versus type. And finally, in the arena in endgame, you're ideally looking for setups that can kill reliably on turn 2, because in most cases trying to get to turn 3 will get you killed. However, there is a little trick you can use if you equip a level 1 weapon and keep your damage low. You can trick the enemy AI into thinking that you're weaker than you are, and it will go easier on you, giving you the most chance of making it into turn 3 or even turn 4 in some cases, because there's just some builds where it's not viable to get consistent turn 2 wins. So you're going to need those extra actions, and I'm going to demonstrate turn 3 wins with some of these builds. Usually, if anything goes past turn 2, I will be using a level 1 weapon. That is why. And that is it for this massive intro, so let's get into it. There's a whole progression route you can take through the game from the very beginning, and that is the Alchemist class. Basically what happens is you get Grim and Anara in the tutorial, you get the Chaotic Gauntlet, and you push into White Peak where you can farm Grim up to max stars. And at that point you have Protect, Weaken, and one of the best gauntlets in the game. You're ready for the Rift, you have an endgame build, and it didn't cost anything. You didn't have to get any chests or do anything, just play the game. And then after that, when you do get to the Rift and you're level 40, you get the Mythic Sword, you put triangles on it, and you get yourself to 100% Protect chance. And what that does is it allows you to stop having to use Anara, and then you can beat pretty much anything in the game. So you have Grim equipped all the time because he's your weakened hero. You keep him up to your level, and then you can equip any other hero, preferably an Alchemist, because you have protect on the weapon, and that is the progression guide to get from the beginning into end game as quickly as possible and for free. And so the first rating is accessibility, which is why I wrote that whole guide years ago now. But Grim isn't just the best hero in the game because his base power charges in 3 moves, or because it generates a ton of rage on the easiest to unlock gauntlet, or even because he has one of the best rage powers in the game that deals damage to all, heals you, and inflicts weaken. It's because he does all of that stuff and it's free. And even though he is blue, when you compare him to all the other weakened heroes, none of them have a toolkit as versatile as this. And then you have an Ara with free turn protect, which is relatively new. That come in a pretty new update. But you get everything you need to stroll straight into endgame as soon as you start the game in the tutorial. It's insane. It's probably no surprise that this class is getting full marks, 5 out of 5 for accessibility. However, I do need to touch on Bacon, and I will be talking about Bacon quite a lot in this video because he is just brilliant, but he's just hard to unlock for absolutely no reason. Because he's a hero challenge hero, you literally can't get him from anywhere in the game other than chests. And the only chests I've ever seen him in are the unique dust chests that you get from playing a lot of Guild Wars and stuff, and you have max star purple heroes, so that's not really accessible at all. So I don't mind saying that the whole thing around acquiring Bacon is ridiculously stupid. Now PvP, the arena, this is where the Alchemist class used to really struggle. And if you remember the old PvP video I did, I was using Olaf in there, and it wasn't great. It took way too long. Kinda worked, but things have improved pretty significantly since then. So we have 2 heroes that we can use really in the arena. The introduction of Bacon was a huge boost to that, and then now they've just reworked Dr. Phlox. So Dr. Phlox is the main PvP hero right now. But I'm going to show you 2 builds. I'm going to show you a turn 3 one, which is really reliable, and a turn 2 one, which is a bit more touch and go, but it does work. So first of all, the turn 3 one. The main hero for it is Dr. Phlox, and then I'm pairing him with Brutus. The gauntlet is the chaotic gauntlet, and I'm using any level 1 weapon because we're trying to get into turn 3. And what we're going to do is try and rage twice as soon as turn 3 opens. Now that means you have to fully charge your rage before turn 3 starts. To do that, with the chaotic gauntlet, you need to punch 6 times and then use an Alchemist hero's base power. Obviously not Brutus's base power, Dr. Phlox's base power, but that will fill your rage. 1 regular base power and 6 punches. But there's a little trick you can use to make this easier, because the level 1 trick that we're already using, you need to keep your damage as low as you can possibly keep it so that the enemy AI doesn't kill you. Punching 6 times, that's going to be quite a bit of damage. So what you do is you take minions that charge in 1 move, because any minion's power that meets the rage generation condition for your gauntlet will charge rage on your gauntlet. And we're using the chaotic gauntlet, which is any power. Now for every minion power that goes off, you can take 2 punches away from the amount of punches you need to punch to fill the rage. So it's just with no powers at all, we need to punch 6 times and use a Phlox base power to fill rage. If we have 2 turn 1 minions and both their powers go off, we need to punch 2 times. So this can really help you along. So you don't have to punch, the minions are going to charge a ton of rage for you as well. And then when you get into turn 3, rage Phlox, Brutus base, rage Phlox again. Couple of things you need to do is you need to use Dr. Phlox's base power in turn 2, because the damage is shockingly low on this hero, even if he is max stars. Even if you have 15 unique hero charms, it is incredibly low. The majority of the damage you're going to get from him on the enemy minions is from the burn tick. So we need to use it on turn 2 so that the burn will deal damage to them before you enter turn 3. Now, if the enemy minions are the super tanky ones, and you think Phlox's rage power will not kill them, then you use a Brutus rage power to kill them. And this is where Brutus comes in handy. Now, I've seen a lot of different variations using Docio or Freya for this turn 3 thing, and the The thing that's making me choose Brutus here is because we're already using Alchemist charms. So having Brutus on the team is going to give us enough damage to finish those minions if we need to. Usually you can just double rage Phlox, because Phlox adds expose on with his rage anyway, so then the second rage benefits from expose and burn. But yeah, just having Brutus there as a backup in case the minions are incredibly chunky, that helps you along a little bit. And in testing, I've used this a ton over the past couple of weeks, and I haven't lost at all using this. And now for the turn 2 variation, it's not as reliable, I'm going to say that straight away, but it does work. There's a couple of ways you can go about it as well, but just first of all, a turn 2 build, you can think of it basically as a glass cannon method, because you're going in there fully powered up with a high level damage weapon. The enemy AI is going to try and kill you as quickly as possible, so that's why it's a turn 2 build. If you let the enemies survive your second turn, they will probably kill you on their second turn. That's how these work. You need to finish them off as quick as possible. Now the method I'm using here is because I have the hammer as a damage weapon. I have the Valiant Gauntlet for the hammer boost. This is the only place in the game where the weapon boost from the gauntlet actually matters. And you just take the first 4 actions, you kill the minions, and then critter base, rage Phlox, cross your fingers and hope they die. Now the second method you can do is with a damage axe. So if your axe is configured a bit like my hammer here, and it's for damage, and then you can swap the Valiant Gauntlet for the Maniacal Gauntlet and swap critter for Freya. And what this does is you get plus 30% rage damage from Phlox because he is maniacal, so it matches with the gauntlet. And obviously Freya is a hunter hero, so she generates rage on the Maniacal Gauntlet. You do need to punch once, but then it's exactly the same. You kill the minions in 4 actions, you use Freya's base power, and then you rage Phlox. Now, the differences between the two are that the Maniacal gives Phlox plus 30% damage boost on his rage, but Critter has Expose, so that's plus 35% damage if Expose lands. This is kind of where they become sort of either or, because Expose might fail, whereas the Gauntlet boost is always going to be there, but then the enemy might put Protect on themselves, which is going to give you 35% less damage, but then if they have Protect, you can overwrite it with Expose. From Critter, you can't do that with Freya. So there's pros and cons to both. I don't think either is better than the other one, but to be honest, I would just go for using the turn 3 one where I know I'm going to win. And for me, for PvP, it's actually really good, and it is quite reliable once you get used to using the heroes and stuff. So it's a 4 out of 5 for PvP. Just try not to overcomplicate it too much. Now for PvE, the Rift. And I do have to talk about it. If you follow my guides, you will be using the Chaotic Gauntlet and the Mythic Sword with a lot of triangles to get the 100% Protect. And the answer to your question is yes. The Chaotic Gauntlet is better than the Holy Gauntlet in every instance or scenario imaginable. And the fact is, if you're not using Brutus, then the Holy Gauntlet is completely useless to you as an Alchemist player. I did talk about this more in the Gauntlet video. If you want to know more on that, you can go check out that video. But it's always the most common question, because I'm saying use the Chaotic Gauntlet and use the sword, and then it's like, well, the Chaotic Gauntlet boosts hammers and the Holy Gauntlet boosts swords. I don't know what to do. It doesn't matter. The Chaotic Gauntlet's just better. In a nutshell, you are comparing one of the best rage generating gauntlets in the game to one of the worst. And now that's out of the way, I've got a couple of recommendations for weapon setups and gauntlets as well. Now obviously, first of all, the Chaotic Gauntlet, that's the one you're gonna have. And if you have Grim and any other Alchemist, it's gonna take 3 powers to fully charge the rage. And that includes rage powers as well, just any powers that come from Alchemist heroes. So if you rage an Alchemist and then use both base powers, your rage will be full again, and you can rage twice in one turn, and that's how quickly it generates rage. However, in a lot of the fights, when the threat starts getting really, really high, you're not even going to make it through the first turn without dying. So then what you have to do is you have to use potions to charge up the heroes to get a rage off, or if you're using Brutus, you have to use a heroism potion or a purple power potion to use Brutus's base power to get protect if you're not using protect on the weapon, and then to rage grim to get your weaken up. And you have to do all this, and every single week in the rift there's like 70 fights. This gets quite costly. The only way that you can get protect and weaken up in one turn without potions is with the Maverick Gauntlet, and that's where the second half of my triangle sword guide comes into play. Without you having to go back and watch those old videos, what I recommend you do is you put 5 triangles on, and then you just fill them up with green protect charms. Doesn't matter as long as it reaches 100%. Then as you progress, the rarity of your charms is going to go up. You're going to get better ones, you're going to get better colors, but just for functionality you start off with 5 green ones, for example, and then you start getting blue ones, and then you start getting purple ones, and then, for example, 2 blue ones and 1 purple one. Anything to make 100% protect using less slots. And then let's say you're using 3 slots for your protect charms, you've got 2 extra triangle slots, you put focus in them, and then you use the Maverick Gauntlet, you swing punch, and if you have klaxon as well, at least one of those hits can be a non-crit and it will still fill the rage up. If you don't have klaxon, all 3 of them do need to crit. So then at that point, the first swing gives you protect, it's guaranteed you have 100% chance. It also gives you focus, which gives you more chance to crit, and then punch, your rage is full, your rage weaken, you have weaken, you're invulnerable. From the first turn, there's no chance these enemies are going to kill you. If it doesn't work and your rage isn't full, then you can just pop a blue protect potion or haste potion or anything else, just a low rarity one, a cheap one, and that will only happen every now and then as well. So that's going to save you a ton of potions. And regardless of what combo or heroes you're using for the Alchemist class, this is why I recommend the 5 triangles. If you're not really bothered about that and you want to spend potions, I would still recommend 100% protect chance on the weapon, and then for the other 3 slots you can put some crit damage or something, whatever you want in there. That's pretty popular. But if you want to get by without using that many potions, this is the weapon setup. That is why my old guides for progression are structured like that, and this is still the best way forward. But while I'm on the subject of potions and the rift, there is another little trick that you can use that I'll share with you. For this to work, you need an illegal lineup, for lack of a better word. And what happens is when there's a melee enemy on the back row, the enemies cannot finish their turn. So if you use a protect potion, the enemy's turn does not register that it's finished, and then your knight will just keep his hand up and that protect potion will not run out until the melee enemy on the back row has his turn, which means either when you kill him or when you get to the back row and he can hit you. Now this is a trick that shouldn't really be possible, but it's because the rift is completely randomly generated, so we get these weird lineups in there that shouldn't even be possible, so I'm calling it an illegal lineup. But yeah, when you do see one of them, sometimes when you get a Bakuba, you get the flappy things in the back and the enemies cannot finish their turn, so you end up with an unlimited protect potion. It's nice to know, and it's nice to keep at least a blue protect potion in your back pocket just in case. But anyway, I'm digressing far too much. Next, heroes. The staple combo in Expert Rift is, or it should be, Bacon if you have him, and Grim. It's just the best combo. There is no arguing with this combo. You will be flattening pretty much all of the bosses and the regular fights as well. Just with this combo, you'll never even have to switch heroes if you don't want to. Now, if you don't have Bacon, you still have options. You can use Geba for high damage. He doesn't do much, but what he does do is damage. It's just weird that he hits the back row, but let's put that aside for now. You can pair Graham with Ayako for more heals, or you can use Brutus for high damage rage. You do have to watch the recoil with Brutus's rage, because his rage is damage to all enemies. So the more enemies there are, the more recoil you're going to take, and if your rift power is above the threat, you're going to take even more, and there's a chance that he's just going to wipe you out when you use his rage. So you do have to watch it and try and plan to follow up with a Grim rage or an Ayako rage if you're using Ayako to keep yourself healed. Alchemist is the class that makes all of the PvE content in this game so easy. You can do pretty much anything you like as long as you take Grim or Ayako with you. A lot of people do prefer Ayako, they are wrong. And what a lot of people do is lock themselves into using Brutus because they don't have Protect on their weapon, because the Chaotic Gauntlet boosts hammers, so they get the hammer and they put damage charms on it, and then now they can't do anything without taking Brutus with them, and that just isn't the best way to play this class. With 100% Protect on your weapon, you free up the secondary hero slot, and now you have the near limitless potential that the Alchemist class gives you. You have Bacon, he can delay the front and back row, which is fantastic for pretty much every single fight in the Expert Rift, and I have just done the Achilles video. I killed him twice. I went back in and killed him again for fun. This is the hardest fight in the game, the most infuriating fight, and I went back in to kill him for fun. That's how easy this class made that fight. You can use Geber for straight up damage, you can use Brutus to clear the screen with his rage, or you can use Millicent to poison everything. That does work brilliantly in the normal Rift. It works a lot better in normal Rift than it does in Expert Rift, but it's still fantastic, and you're going to be charging a ton of rage because you have the Chaotic Gauntlet, and you can do all of this stuff while being virtually invulnerable and always having a full health bar. It's absolutely insane. Now, there was a time when the Alchemist class's lack of distribute heroes made them pretty weak in the game, but right now this is possibly the best class in the game for all PvE content, and solely because how easy it makes the game feel. After coming into it from playing the other classes, and I've played all the other classes before I did this series of videos, but after playing all the other classes for so long, it just makes the game ridiculously easy. It's getting full marks for PvE, the Rift, 5 out of 5. It's as easy as the game's gonna get. The next one is Guild Boss Scores. So I'm going to start by saying you're not going to be at the top of the leaderboards all the time, but you do have one hero that's better than all the rest for the undead bosses. Of course, I'm talking about Bacon. Again, so you see how integral he is to this class, even though he is virtually unobtainable. But he is the best damage dealer to undead bosses. That's Rahab, Chimera's Goat Head, and the Blood Moon event boss, and I think possibly another event boss that I've forgotten. Abysmal Mist, possibly. I think that's undead. But anyway, all of the undead bosses, if you have a decent setup and Bacon, you're going to be at the top of the leaderboards. I'm not going to tell you how to fight bosses because I've done a ton of guild boss videos. I've done a whole video about a weapon like this, which is still the best, Maverick Gauntlet as well. It just works. It works for any boss, and it saves you using potions in there as well. Unfortunately though, that is the only distribute hero that Alchemist has. I'm not talking about Zalam because he's green. It's just completely pointless. Don't even bother leveling him up. So you will be able to get to the top of the leaderboards, but only when there's an undead boss up. So it's a 3 out of 5 for Guild Boss Scores. And to close this one, since I did this video, and yeah, I know I wasn't very good at this YouTube thing back then. I'm not a YouTuber, I'm just a player who writes guides. But since I did that video, Alchemist gets thought of as a starter class, and then people play a couple of wars, they unlock Logan or Dokio and jump ship straight away. But right now, especially with the Phlox update, Alchemist is so much more than a starter class. And coverage in the Rift is what you really need your mythic armor for, and that's what you get. And now, because of the updates and things, you get a decent bit of coverage in the arena and guild bosses as well, and it just rounds out this already fantastic class. And I don't know if I mentioned it, but did I mention that you get Grim at the start of the game for free? 5 out of 5 for the Alchemist class. It's just brilliant. And that is it from me today. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I have been James B09. Good luck out there. If you stay to the end of the video, I'm going to show you how to get some free stuff, because free stuff is always good stuff. If you go to the campfire screen, you see a button that says social. If you click on that, you find links to all of the communities there, and a button that says Night Hub. If you press Night Hub, it will open your browser, log you in automatically. Then you can navigate to the web store. In the web store, you will find free chests, and when you claim anything from the web store, it goes directly into your inbox in game. Now, if you do want to spend some money, you can find event passes that come with bonus points or gems, for example. But that really is it from me today. Have a good one. Enjoy.